Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we are going to be talking about some rumors out of China on the Highland Model 3. We also have updated wholesale sales numbers, some news on Fremont, and a couple other items as well. Strong outperformance for Tesla on the day today, finishing up 2% to close at $259.32, while the Nasdaq was down 0.1% on the day. Kind of interesting after hours, we did have reports from Amazon and Apple. Both actually beat earnings expectations, so at least after the initial report now, Amazon is up pretty significantly after hours on a more significant beat. Apple with a smaller beat, their stock is actually down a bit after hours. That tapered off a little bit of the initial enthusiasm that the overall market reflected after Amazon's report, but as always, these will take time to digest, and there's always going to be the concern with stronger earnings that, maybe the Fed can then justify further rate increases a little bit more. So it's just kind of a flavor of the day situation. But we are now through two more of the mega cap earnings reports. Alright, getting into Tesla news, we've got a couple of items from China. We'll start with wholesale sales. These have now been reported for July, about 64,300 for the month. Remember, wholesale sales representing both retail or domestic sales and exports for that month. This is down about 30% month over month. It is the lowest number for Tesla so far this year. But it's also coming off the highest month of the year so far in June, where Tesla did draw down inventory, so wholesale sales pretty significantly exceeded production in June, which makes it hard for that number to be replicated then the following month. Still, it is quite a bit lower than the average that we have seen from Tesla over the last few months, so what's going to be really interesting to see is the production number. We probably won't get that for roughly another week or so, but that should give us some really good insight into what exactly is going on with the Model 3. Remember, there were rumors of production downtime in June for Highland upgrades. Those didn't really seem to materialize, with June Giga Shanghai Model 3 production coming in at about 27,000 vehicles, pretty much in line with where the production rate had previously been. As we await the July number then, that will give us more insight on if there was any downtime during that month, which if there were, that would be a significant contributor to the lower wholesale sales figure for July. So we'll come back to this when we get a little bit more of that data. Now, continuing forward with Highland, today there has been an influx of rumors out of China on the status of Project Highland. These are all rumors from social media, so we have to take them for what it's worth, but each of these accounts at various points in time has had some sort of inside or early information. Not 100% perfect track records, but enough that it's definitely worth paying attention to, and all of the rumors actually have a little bit of different information, so it doesn't seem like they're all just repeating each other from one rumor. Now, when we have multiple rumors like this come out at the same time, although they all kind of fit together, could be a situation where Tesla's trying to uncover some leaks or something like that. So that's worth keeping in mind as well. That being said, let's look at some of this information. So first is from Wuwa on X, saying that, quote, according to online rumors, communication from suspected Tesla staff indicates that the current domestically produced Tesla Model 3 will be discontinued on August 14th. It is reported that the new Tesla Model 3 will officially be put into production in the third quarter, end quote. Alright, so that's the first rumor, and then we have one that is very similar from Chris Zhang on Twitter, saying that, quote, Giga Shanghai started production switchover starting this week to produce 2 days of current Model 3, 2 days of Highland production, alternate operation, and completely switched to Highland production 2 weeks later, end quote. So this one is a little bit more specific in terms of what's exactly going on with production. The timelines are very slightly different, but close enough that I think they kind of match up. But it does sound a little bit strange that Tesla would do 2 days of current Model 3 production, or, what's going to be the old Model 3, and then the new Model 3 on 2 other days. I'm sure there are reasons that could make sense, and maybe Tesla learned a little bit from the Model S and X refresh where they kind of just took it down and didn't really produce much for probably a quarter or so. So maybe they figure, hey, we can only really do 2 days of Highland production. We might as well, on those other days, produce Model 3. There are a ton of factors to consider to determine which of those plans nets out better economically. So it seems a bit odd, but I suppose there's a scenario where something like that could make sense. Alright, the third rumor is from Tesla Shanghai. You may remember this account because it used to share insight ahead of the publishing of domestic sales in China, which was generally on, not always, but generally on. They seem to lose their source for that at some point, so it doesn't mean much for this, but nevertheless, the rumor from them is that 1. Trial production has already begun. Mass deliveries will start in September ahead of initial expectations. I don't know if that refers to Tesla's expectations or more broadly. My guess is Tesla's because I think more broadly it was probably assumed to be a little bit earlier, at least in China. Number 2, the project is highly confidential, and as soon as a trial vehicle is produced, it will be concealed. No surprise on that one. Number 3, the new car has a more impressive design with taillights similar to a Porsche Macan and an overall feel similar to Model S. And 4, the most exciting part is that based on the new project's component costs, The price of the new car is expected to be around 200,000 RMB. Prices are often kept confidential, but some speculation is possible. So the last part there definitely sounds like speculation. Around 200,000 would be around 28,000 US dollars. However, it's only one significant digit, so like we have talked about, you could say Tesla's current price of 232,000 RMB on the Model 3 is around 200,000. So I would definitely keep expectations in check on that one. And alongside that thought, they tweeted later today that the new Model 3 will use the internally coated BT43 battery, a lithium iron phosphate battery, with longer range, more capacity without a price increase, a good and big deal. So that language of without a price increase, that's much less suggestive of a significantly lowered price for Highland than those previous tweets may have implied. So obviously that could be something that we see, but it's not something that I necessarily expect just from this set of tweets. Anyway, sounds like there's going to be a lot of action on this over the next 2 to 4 weeks, so hopefully we get some more confirmation of these types of things relatively soon. Alright, next up we've got an update out of Fremont. This is from Tesla Roddy. They have found another permit that Tesla has filed for some expansion at Fremont. They say that Tesla yesterday filed a permit seeking approval for a new tent valued at around $750,000, with the permit reading installation of permanent tent at road, light tunnel structure, electrical, and controls. So over the years, Tesla has of course gotten a lot of attention about these so-called tents or sprung structures. They seem to have worked out well enough that it's no longer quite as attention-grabbing as it once was, but yet another sign of some significant updates happening at Fremont. Next, we've got a quick update on Tesla's advertising project, I guess for the lack of a better word, but Yashu of Hit That Bid on Twitter noting that Tesla is now running about 43 ads on Google. So that's up a bit from where we had last discussed it. I think it was around 10 to 20 at that point in time. So Tesla seems to be in the testing and learning stage and slowly expanding their efforts, at least on Google AdWords, and we'll continue to wait and see to what extent that expands to other forms of media. Next, a quick update on the Cybertruck. It seems like every day we get new photos, new videos, so we won't keep sharing every single one of those, but a couple of nice shots here of the winter testing from New Zealand, so always cool to see the Cybertruck in that environment. Alright, last couple of things for today. We had previously talked about GM's release of specs and updated pricing with the start of production for the Chevy Blazer EV, which is on the Ultium platform for GM. And those prices came in $7,000 to $10,000 more expensive than GM had previously announced. We now have another update that GM has canceled their plans to build the cheapest version, the 1LT trim, which was supposed to be the opening price point vehicle at $45,000. So maybe GM does something with that in the future, but for now that trim is canceled. Automotive News says that a Chevy spokesperson told them that the brand envisions higher level trims of the Equinox EV to meet the needs of the potential customers for that lower price Blazer trim. Quote, "It gives us room to position and market the vehicles without overlap," end quote. So they're making this vehicle more expensive than they initially announced, and they're going to cover that gap by making their other vehicle more expensive to just slide up into that remaining price point. Sounds like a great plan, provided they could sell those vehicles, which will obviously be the question. So Chevy/GM has now updated the Blazer page on the website with the increased prices. Remember that had not been updated previously. And they've also removed the 1LT trim. They do actually still have it listed on their little color selection tool, but they've mostly removed it. And with these increased prices, you can now see that the lowest price version seems to start at about $57,000. So it seems that this vehicle that was announced to start at $45,000 is now starting at $57,000. So it's incredibly difficult to see the value proposition here compared to a Model Y. So this probably isn't going to receive much attention, but this is a much bigger deal than the attention that it will receive because, again, this is the Ultium platform. This is their next generation platform, and they've now had to raise prices more than $10,000 above what they initially announced. And these are probably still going to be losing money. And how are they going to compete with Tesla at these prices? Which if they can't do, how do they then grow economies of scale? And if they can't do that, where do they go from here? We've been in this period where these automakers could just announce their future plans, GM talking about all these different models that they're going to offer by certain years. Eventually they've got to deliver, and we've seen here with the Blazer that those plans don't really mean anything. You can say you're going to sell this vehicle at $45,000, but if you actually start selling it at $57,000, it's going to play out a little bit differently, especially when you've got Tesla on the other side really not too concerned with their present day margins and just going all out on volume, going down the price curve, and having already achieved scale that these automakers are only hoping to achieve someday. It's just like the dealership stuff that we talked about a couple of days ago. Eventually, push comes to shove, and that takes a while in the auto market, but there's absolutely a scenario here where these plans from these other legacy automakers kind of stall out and they just can't get any more volume, And there doesn't seem to be many paths out of that other than continuing to sell ICE, continuing to hope for government bailout or something like that, and kind of just burning a lot of capital trying to brute force your way to eventually get that scale that is maybe somewhat competitive. When you're chasing a moving target that is moving quite quickly, like Tesla is, that becomes even more difficult. Anyway, very interesting times right now. Alright, the last thing for today, just a quick calendar update. Most likely no episode tomorrow, depends what's going on, but I do have some plans that are probably going to conflict. So hopefully a quiet day, and that can wrap it up for this week. But as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on X at Tesla Podcast, and we'll most likely see you on Monday for the August 7th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.